In just 39 seconds, one of Hollywood's most respected actors completely dismantled a late-night host on live television, exposing hypocrisy that left the studio audience in absolute shock. What started as a simple conversation about faith and values turned into a verbal takedown so brutal that security had to get involved. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We bring you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, the moments they don't want you to see, and the confrontations that reveal who these celebrities really are behind the cameras. Last night on The Late Show, Stephen Colbert sat across from Denzel Washington, and what happened next has the entire entertainment industry talking. The tension was immediate from the moment Denzel walked out. You could see it in his face. He gave a polite wave to the audience, shook Colbert's hand, but there was something different in his eyes. Something that said he wasn't here to play the usual Hollywood game. Colbert started things off the way he always does, with that smug grin plastered across his face. "Denzel Washington, everybody. The legend himself. How are you doing tonight?" The audience clapped and cheered, but Denzel just nodded slowly, settling into his chair with his arms crossed. "I'm doing well, Stephen. Thanks for having me," Denzel said, but his tone was flat. There was no warmth there, no fake enthusiasm, just a man who showed up because he said he would. Colbert leaned back in his chair, clearly not picking up on the vibe. "So, you've got a new project coming out, and I've heard it deals with some pretty heavy themes. Faith, redemption, second chances. That's kind of your wheelhouse these days, isn't it?" Denzel's jaw tightened just slightly. "It's not a wheelhouse, Stephen. It's who I am. It's what I believe in." Right. Of course," Colbert said, waving his hand dismissively. "But you have to admit, in Hollywood, the whole faith thing, the religious angle, it's becoming a bit of a niche market, don't you think? I mean, we're in 2025. Most people are moving past that old-school thinking." The audience went quiet. You could hear someone cough in the back row. Denzel uncrossed his arms and leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Old-school thinking? Is that what you call it?" Colbert laughed nervously, sensing he might have stepped on something. "Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying. The world is changing. People are finding meaning in different places. Not everyone needs the church or the Bible to tell them how to live their lives." "And what do they need, Stephen?" Denzel asked, his voice calm but sharp as a knife. "What do people need, if not faith? If not something bigger than themselves to believe in?" Colbert shifted in his seat. "Well, I think people need community, compassion, understanding. You don't need religion to have those things." "You don't, huh?" Denzel said, leaning back now, his eyes locked on Colbert. "So you're telling me that you, sitting here in your nice suit, making millions of dollars to crack jokes on television, you've figured out the secret to life without faith? Without humility? Without acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, there's something bigger than you?" The audience started murmuring. This wasn't going the way anyone expected. Colbert tried to laugh it off, doing that thing he does where he looks at the camera like he's in on some joke. "Whoa! Okay, Denzel's coming in hot tonight, folks." But Denzel didn't smile. He didn't play along. "I'm not coming in hot, Stephen. I'm coming in real. And I think that's something you're not used to on this show." Colbert's smile faded just a bit. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you sit here every night and you mock people. You mock their beliefs, their values, their faith. You wrap it up in jokes and comedy, but at the end of the day, you're telling people that what they believe in is stupid. That they're stupid for believing it." "That's not what I do," Colbert said, his voice getting defensive now. "I'm a comedian. I make fun of everyone, including myself. That's the job." "No, Stephen, that's not the job," Denzel shot back. "The job is to entertain, to inform, to maybe even inspire. But what you do is tear people down. You punch down at people who are just trying to live their lives with some kind of moral compass, some kind of faith to guide them, and you make them feel small for it." The studio was dead silent now. Even the band looked uncomfortable. Colbert tried to regain control. Look, Denzel, I have faith. I was raised Catholic. I understand religion. I just think there's room for nuance, for questioning things. Questioning things? Denzel said, his voice rising slightly. You don't question things, Stephen. You mock them. There's a difference. When you bring someone on this show who believes in God, who believes in traditional values, you don't have a conversation with them. You set them up. You make them the punchline. And then you sit back and act like you're the enlightened one. Colbert's face was turning red now. That is completely unfair. I've had plenty of respectful conversations with people of faith on this show. Name one, Denzel said flatly. Colbert stammered. There have been many. Name one, Denzel repeated, harder this time. The audience was shifting in their seats. Some people were nodding along with Denzel. Others looked shocked. Colbert looked to his producer off stage, but no one was coming to save him. Look, I don't keep a list of every interview I've done, Colbert said, trying to sound casual but clearly rattled. But I resent the implication that I'm somehow attacking people of faith. That's not who I am. Then who are you, Stephen? Denzel asked, leaning forward again. Because from where I'm sitting, you're a man who's forgotten where he came from. You're a man who's so desperate to be liked by the Hollywood elite, by the people who write for the New York Times and the people who hand out awards, that you've abandoned any real conviction you might have once had. Colbert's voice went cold. You don't know me, Denzel. I know enough, Denzel said. I know that you claim to be a man of faith, but you only talk about it when it's convenient, when it makes you look good, when it doesn't cost you anything. But the moment it might make you unpopular with your audience, with your bosses, with the people who sign your checks, you fold. You hide behind comedy and sarcasm because you're too afraid to actually stand for something. That's enough, Colbert said, his voice sharp now. You're on my show, and I don't have to sit here and take this. You're right, Denzel said, standing up. You don't. And I don't have to sit here and pretend like this conversation is going anywhere productive. Colbert stood up too, pointing at Denzel. You came on my show to promote your movie, and instead you've turned this into some kind of self-righteous sermon. Who do you think you are? I'm someone who still believes in something, Denzel said, his voice booming now. I'm someone who isn't afraid to say that faith matters, that character matters, that how you treat people when the cameras are off matters. Can you say the same? The audience was going crazy now. Some people clapping, others gasping. Colbert's face was bright red. Get out! Get the hell out of my studio! I'm already leaving, Denzel said, pulling off his microphone and dropping it on the chair. But let me tell you something before I go. You can mock faith all you want. You can make fun of people who believe in God, who go to church, who try to live by a moral code. But at the end of the day, when the cameras stop rolling and the audience goes home, you're going to be alone with yourself. And you're going to have to ask yourself if you actually stand for anything or if you're just another puppet saying whatever you're told to say. Colbert was shaking now, his hands clenched into fists. You think you're better than me? You think because you quote the Bible and talk about faith that you're some kind of saint? You're just as much a part of this machine as I am, Denzel. Don't act like you're above it all. Denzel stopped at the edge of the stage and turned back. I never said I was above it, Stephen. I said I'm trying. I'm trying to be better, to do better, to live by the values I claim to have. Can you say the same? Or are you just going to keep hiding behind your desk, throwing stones at people who actually have the guts to stand for something? Security! Colbert yelled, his voice cracking. Get him out of here! 2 security guards started moving toward the stage, but Denzel was already walking off. The audience was on their feet now, some booing, some cheering, complete chaos. Colbert stood there, breathing hard, looking like he'd just been hit by a truck. We're going to commercial, he said weakly, but his voice was barely audible over the noise. Denzel walked through the backstage area, past producers and crew members who were all staring at him with wide eyes. He didn't say a word to any of them. He grabbed his jacket from his dressing room and headed straight for the exit. As he pushed through the door and stepped out into the night, you could still hear the chaos from inside the studio. Voices shouting, people arguing, the sound of something being knocked over. But Denzel just kept walking, his head held high, his conviction unshaken. Because at the end of the day, he had said what needed to be said. He had stood up for what he believed in, even when it cost him, even when it made him the villain in Stephen Colbert's story. And as he disappeared into the night, one thing was crystal clear. Denzel Washington wasn't going to compromise who he was for anyone, not even for a late-night talk show host with millions of viewers.